Welcome to episode number 26 of the Blitz Take. I am here with SI.com's Eagles reporter Ed Kracz, and I'm excited to have him on to talk Eagles football. And there's been a lot of positives the past 3 weeks with this Eagles squad. And what are your thoughts on this past Sunday?
Well, I mean, a lot of takeaways, right? 9 sacks was my biggest takeaway. I mean, not every day you see an NFL defense sack a quarterback 9 times in one game.
Mm-hmm.
Um, to get that kind of pressure on Carson Wentz, and look, the Eagles knew what Carson Wentz is as a quarterback, and that's he does hold the ball too long, and
Mm-hmm.
they know he fumbles it, so they attacked not only him but the ball as well, and they forced two out. They recovered one. Brandon Graham's strip sack was huge, kind of set up that first touchdown. So that defense is my first takeaway, and then probably my second one is Devontae Smith. I mean, I had to pick my jaw up a few times off the press box table there because he just made some amazing catches, real acrobatic stuff, flying through the air, jumping high, and then not just to catch the ball, but he was so high off the ground on that one down to the goal line at the end of the first half that I thought when he hit the ground he was going to fumble it. I thought you'd see it squirt loose, but he hangs on to the ball. So 169 yards, career high, 8 catches, career high. He was amazing. That was one of the
Mm-hmm.
more amazing performances I think I've seen from an Eagles receiver, going back to maybe Terrell Owens in the Super Bowl back in Jacksonville in 2005. I was lucky enough to be at that game covering it for a newspaper I worked for, and that was an amazing game. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember, but he had the broken leg. He was in the hyperbaric chamber for weeks leading up to the game, still in pain. He went out and caught 9 catches for 123 yards. But this Smith performance, man, was right up there. So they're my two big takeaways. And you could say Jalen Hurts maybe would be one, and normally he's one of my two takeaways from every game. But that just shows you, the kind of season he's having, where he's probably my third takeaway at this point, behind the defense and Devontae Smith.
What are your thoughts on the Eagles matching up against Jacksonville?
I just was kind of looking at their depth chart, and I watched a little of their game against the Chargers on the Game Pass with NFL, just a quarter, and they have a lot of talent, and that's about what you'd expect for a franchise that's had back-to-back first picks overall in the draft. And it's not just the first pick overall in the entire draft, but it's the first pick of the second round, the first pick of the third round. So they've been drafting really high for a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
that increases your chances at a hit rate. So I think this is a really talented roster, and now you have a coaching staff led by Doug Peterson, um, who is a seasoned staff. They know how to play football. They know how to game plan. They know how to develop players. This is a really good challenge for the Eagles on Sunday. I think the Jaguars are a legitimate 2-1. I know they lost to Washington in week one, but week one's kind of a crapshoot anyway. So yeah, I mean, this is a legitimate team. I think this could be a team that surprises some people, and they play in probably the weakest division in the football, the AFC South, with the Colts, who are off to a 1-1-1 start, and the Texans and the Titans are 1-2. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is a division that maybe the Jaguars can win, and they're going to be fired up to play for Doug Peterson coming back to Philadelphia. They're going to want to get a win for their head coach in his backyard, where he won a Super Bowl, where he still has a statue of him and Nick Foles out in the parking lot area right outside the stadium. So
Yeah.
they're going to want to come in and win and show, hey, we're for real. When you beat teams by like 24 points the last 2 weeks, like they've done, you start believing in yourself. You start saying, hey, we're good, man. We
Mm-hmm.
just keep buying into what Doug and his staff are selling, and we could be the surprise of the NFL this year. So this is going to be a big game, for a tough game, I think, for the Eagles.
So my next question is, what is your prediction of how many sacks the Eagles defense will have?
Against the Jags.
Yeah.
Well, they're going to try to fool Trevor Lawrence, second-year quarterback. Looks a lot better this year than he did his rookie year when Urban Meyer was just a mess of a head coach for that
Mm-hmm.
franchise. And Doug is going to have Trevor Lawrence ready. And their offensive line is pretty good. They signed that guard from Washington, Brandon Scherf, who's one of the top guards in the league. I love the center. I liked him coming out of the draft out of Kentucky, Luke Fortner. I talked to him at the combine in February, and he talked a lot about Jason Kelce, how he patterned his game after Jason Kelce. So I love this center, Luke Fortner. They got a big tackle, Cam Robinson, who's real good. So this is a really good offensive line. It's better than Washington's. And again, there's no familiarity like they had with Wentz, and no like extra motivation to go get Carson Wentz because he used to play for us. So they're not going to get 9 sacks. I would probably predict somewhere maybe like 3. They'll probably sack Lawrence 3, but I think they'll intercept him a couple times too. I think they're going to try to confuse him, give him some different looks, and try to take away some of the things that he wants to do. And I think they'll sack him 3 times and maybe intercept him once or twice.
My second part of that question is, what is your prediction for Jalen Hurts offensively against the Jacksonville defense?
Man, let me see. I mean, these last 2 games, he's thrown for 333 yards against the Vikings, 340 against the Commanders, completing over 70% of his throws in those 2 games. The Jags have this rookie linebacker, Devin Lloyd, who, if you think about, all the mock drafts that are done before the draft, there was a lot of people that wanted Devin Lloyd here in Philadelphia, the Utah linebacker, and he's got 2 interceptions. So, I think that it's a secondary that can be beaten. I would expect that Hurts has so much confidence in his receivers. A.J. Brown, who he's known for many years, they've been best friends. Devontae Smith, his second year with Devontae Smith, he's able to have chemistry and confidence in throwing the ball to those guys, knowing that they'll go get it. Same with Dallas Goedert. They've been together, 3 years now. I just think that, I think he's just going to continue on this upward trajectory. I don't know how many yards he'll throw for. I know that Jacksonville has a very good run defense. I think they only give up like 55 yards a game on the ground. So, Hurts is going to have to probably win another game with his arm. We've seen him do it twice. I think he'll do it a third time. I don't know, the exact number of yards he'll throw for, but certainly 300 is not out of the realm of possibility here. He could go for another 300 yards.
I kind of feel like he could go for like 315 yards with 3 touchdowns.
Okay, that's your prediction?
Yeah.
All right, I like it. That's a good one. Yeah, another 3 touchdowns. He had 3 last week, right? He hit Goddard, Smith, and Brown. I mean, yeah. And he could run for him. I mean, that guy he's got 4 touchdown passes this year and I think 3 rushing. So, I could see 3 touchdowns again in some form, passing or rushing. Yeah, it's realistic.
What are your thoughts on Nick Sirianni and his approach to each game?
Well, last year the Eagles struggled starting off games quickly. Remember, I sat in a few games at the Link last year where the Eagles are getting booed off the field at halftime. Slow starts just doomed them. You come back this year and they get off to quick starts now. Their first half, I mean, you could say, okay, well, they haven't scored any points in the second half in the last 2 games, but they've gotten off to such good starts, early in games. So he's kind of turned that around this year. They have 65 of, I don't know how many points they've scored, like 86 points, and 65 of them come in the second quarter. So to me, that's an indication of a pretty well-prepared team. They're ready to start the ball game. They're ready to come out with the plays that they've scripted all week long, some of the stuff that they've dialed up in practice, and they come out using that stuff and they execute that stuff. And they've gotten off to good starts. So, my thoughts on Sirianni is he seems more comfortable. If you think back when he got introduced at the opening press conference, when they hired him, I mean, he kind of stumbled his way through it and everybody thought, oh my gosh, this guy can't even form a sentence. How's he going to coach a football team? But now he's more comfortable in his press conferences. The players really like him. He represents their brand, whether you think it's corny or not, when he wears the Brandon Graham stuff or the Jalen Hurts stuff or the Mike Quick jersey like he wore down in Washington. I mean, if you think it's corny, fine, but players dig that stuff, man, when you're wearing their brand. And he's definitely a player's coach, and I think he's probably better this year than he was last year, and that's kind of a natural progression, kind of like what Jalen Hurts is going through. The more you do it, the longer you're around it, the more you see, the better you get at it. So I think that's kind of the case with Nick as well as Jalen.
So my next question is, in the next 6 games, where do you see the Eagles stand in the division?
Well, let's see. Who do they have here? They have the Jags, then the Cardinals, Dallas, and they have their bye week, and then I think they play Pittsburgh coming out of it. I had this team with 10 wins, so I hate to switch up now, but I mean, there's no reason why. I mean, they're going to be favored, I think, in all those games, but they really need to beat the Cowboys to me. I mean, they have not had success against Dallas the last few years. Jalen Hurts hasn't had success against them. In that stretch, they need to beat the Cowboys. That's the game they really need to circle. Obviously, it's a division game too, so you need to win those division games. I think Pittsburgh is going to be a challenge too. I think Kenny Pickett could be the quarterback at that point. A rookie. Eagles could make life miserable for him, but I think he's better than Trubisky. So, there's some games that, aren't going to be pushovers, even though the Eagles will be favored in them. You said 5, 6 games. I mean, they could win, I don't know, 4 of them, maybe, and be 7-2 heading into, November. I mean, that'd be pretty good. I'm surprised they've gotten off to this quick of a start, to be honest. I know everybody made a big deal over their easy schedule. I thought the Vikings was a big challenge. I thought the Lions would be a big challenge, and they were. I mean, that's obviously their toughest game so far. But, the Lions came in with 70,000 fans in that stadium, a lot of pub off the Hard Knocks stuff. So I'm kind of surprised they're sitting at 3-0. I thought they'd be 2-1 right now. But 3-0 is pretty good. And, I could see him stretching this thing out to, 6-3 or 7-2.
What are your thoughts on the rest of the division?
Well, the Cowboys without Dak are still winning. The Cowboys defense is really good. I mean, they pressured Daniel Jones in that Monday night game 24 times. And, that's tough. I mean, Micah Parsons is just phenomenal. And then DeMarcus Lawrence, when you have 2 pass rushers like that, your offensive line better come to play and block it up because, they're going to pressure you. And, Hurts' skill set hopefully will allow him to get away from some of that pressure when they play the Cowboys. But, I still think Dallas is probably the biggest threat to the Eagles' chances of winning the NFC East. And, again, that's why I say they really have to win this home game with them on a Sunday night. I think it's October 16th, I think, week 6. I don't know if Dak will be here for that game or not, but Cooper Rush is playing pretty good in his stead. So, but I think Dallas is the biggest threat to the Eagles' chances of winning the NFC East. Of course, the Cowboys won it last year. There hasn't been a repeat winner of the NFC East since the Eagles did it in 2004, which is crazy when you think about it. So, kind of history is against the Cowboys doing it again, or maybe they break this trend of never having a repeat champion for the last, whatever it is, 17, 18 years. So that they're the biggest threat. I mean, they've already beaten the Commanders. We saw what they're like. I wouldn't be surprised if Carson Wentz isn't even the quarterback when Washington comes here on November 14th for a Monday night game. They might have turned to Sam Howell at that point, or the guy who did it last year, whose name's escaping me. I'm talking about, their backup. Well, anyway, I'm not sure Wentz will still be the quarterback, when they play again. So, Washington, very good defensive front, but they just have a lot of holes. And the Giants, they lost Sterling Shepard with a torn ACL in that game Monday night. He was their leading receiver. It's a big loss for them. But Saquon Barkley's running better than he has since the injury that happened 2 years ago. I think their defense is also pretty good. But I just don't think they have too many holes too. And when you're cutting guys for salary cap reasons like James Bradbury and Blake Martinez, their leading tackler, right before the season starts, it tells you a lot about what their mindset is for this season. They want to probably, I don't know. I think they would like to have a top 10 pick again. They had two of them last year. They need to build this team. They have holes to fill. So I don't think the Giants and Commanders are any threat. Certainly, I think the Cowboys can be.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if you listened to Jonathan Gagnon's press conference earlier today, but I wanted your thoughts on what he had to say.
Yeah, I was there today for it. I was there for, him and Shane Steichen and Michael Clay. Yeah, I liked what he had to say. I mean, he's feeling pretty good about this defense. He's feeling good about his rotation. He's giving guys like Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham. He's not playing them too many snaps because he has confidence in his younger guys like Milton Williams and Marlon Tuipulotu and Jordan Davis. He thought Jordan Davis's role is just going to keep getting better. So yeah, what's not to feel good about if you're Jonathan Gannon? Your defense has held the Vikings to 7 points and the Washington team to 6 points. I mean, they gave up the safety, but that was on the offense. So they gave up 6 points as a defense, and they didn't come until there was less than 2 minutes to go in the game, and the game was already over. So, Gannon was feeling pretty good. But he does have a test this week. Jaguars have some weapons. He talked about that, that Christian Kirk, who the Eagles really wanted, probably would have gone after, but the Jags threw all this money at him and just, right out of the Eagles market. So Jaguars are using Christian Kirk. They have, some good running backs, James Robinson and Travis Etienne. They have a good tight end. And Gannon talked about all this. So, as much as you like to say, hey, it was, great performance by the defense on Sunday, now comes another challenge this Sunday. So, but he was feeling good about where things stood.
Yeah, my last question is, if the Eagles were to make it all the way to the Super Bowl and have to play Miami or Buffalo, who would you see winning?
Man, I guess Miami, the Eagles practiced against Miami in the summer, and I was there in South Florida for what was supposed to be 2 practices, but it was only one because Miami had this stomach virus that was allegedly working its way through the team. And Miami was better in that practice that they had against each other. But, does that really matter? One practice against another team in August when you're talking about a February game for all the marbles? No, it doesn't. But Miami's good. They have a lot of speedy receivers. Waddle and Hill. I mean, they have a really good offense. And if Tua can develop like we see Hurts developing, and it looks like he has, he's threw 6 touchdown passes in a win over the Ravens. That's a tough game. Buffalo's a tough game too. I mean, they haven't won a Super Bowl in 4 tries in the 90s. So, I mean, Josh Allen's a handful. They've got a very good defense. I think it would be a tough matchup no matter who it was against. But listen, if you would have asked me that question starting the 2017 season, if they were to meet New England, do you think they had a chance? And I would have said no. And even in Super Bowl week, when I was out in Minnesota and you come to the Mall of America every day into the work center, they had these 2 life-size banners of Nick Foles and Tom Brady hanging down over like 3 stories. And I'd see that every day I walk in and say, there is no way the Eagles have a chance to win this game. And lo and behold, they did. So, I wouldn't like their chances against either the Dolphins or the Bills. But, ask me again in February if that is the case, and I might feel differently. But right now, those 2 teams I think are better than the Eagles.
Yeah, for sure. I can agree on that, especially Miami. I think Miami has everything that the Eagles kind of have, and it's going to be interesting to see how the season progresses. And I'm excited to listen to this podcast once February comes and see if we're right about our prediction.
Yeah, well, listen, don't hold me against anything here. I mean, this is what are we, September 27th here? I mean, Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I think the Eagles are a good team now. I think they'll get in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens from there. I think they can make some noise, but Jalen Hurts is really progressing very well.
Mhm.
A lot of chemistry with his receivers. He trusts them, and that's huge. And this defense looks like it could develop as the season goes on too. I mean, I love Slay and Bradbury on the corners. Chauncey Gardner Johnson, who got here late, August 31st, kind of had
Mhm.
to hit the ground running quickly, but he's played all the snaps 2 out of the last 3 games. The last 2 games, he's played every single snap. And, he's not a finished product. He's still getting better within this defense, within this scheme, within this culture. So I think it's a defense that can continually get better as the weeks go by.
I'm definitely looking forward to this Sunday. I'll, I'll be at the game, so
Good.
so I'll be able to see how AJ Brown does in person, and I'm looking forward to all the deep passes he gets.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they did hit a couple home runs. And listen, I mean, you just get the ball to Brown in space,
Hmm.
and he becomes a running back.
Yeah.
All of a sudden he's able to pick up yards after the catch, and tough man to bring down at 6'1", 2 1/4. I certainly want to try it. But
Hmm.
yeah, we'll see how it all plays out Sunday. It should be a good test for the Eagles. I'm looking forward to seeing the reaction to Doug Peterson, what kind of homecoming he gets. We saw the Eagle fans boo Jalen Rager when he came back.
Hmm.
We saw thousands and thousands of fans go to Washington this past weekend to boo Carson Wentz, and but now we'll see. I would think Doug Peterson's going to get cheered. He should get cheered. Brought a
Hmm.
Super Bowl to the city, the only coach to ever do that. So, I hope he doesn't get booed. He's a good guy. He's a good coach, and I hope he gets cheered. So that'll be another interesting thing to keep an eye on, is how, what kind of reception he gets in his homecoming.
It should be interesting this Sunday when the Eagles play the Jaguars. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on,
All right,
and I hope to have you back on soon.
my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.